Alright guys, welcome back to W.D.Y.D CSP. What do you do as a central sterile processor? Alright guys, I am going to demonstrate the typical method that I see, or the basic method I see for assembling a tray. Now, whether you're a picker or a slight dumper, this is the basic methods, or the I want to say the common way that I've seen individuals assemble trays. It's not the only way, but this is the common way. I'll explain later or during the video how else you may see individuals assemble trays. So, of course, you want to inspect your container, because that is also a medical device. And although I'm not a big fan of these rubber mats, I understand their purpose, but we have to inspect those as well. They really should not be in the trays when they come out of the washer. They actually should be taken out, placed to the side or on top of the tray after all the cleaning, so that you know it goes with the tray. Or even put it down as a line item in the count sheet. So you will also notice that I'm assembling this tray without utilizing a count sheet. So that takes up some more time. So I'm going to do this just off a site. In general, there might be items in here that's missing, but I'm assuming that this tray is complete and it's not going to go into production. I'm just demonstrating how I would assemble this tray with organization and tray neatness and everything else. All right, so I am taking out all my large retractors, looking for my sharps within the tray. So being careful to grab those items. And some people can't work like this. They really can't. They can't see this chaos and this big pile of spaghetti and work through it. And that's understandable. So some individuals will pick all that they need out of the basket. I'm just not a reacher. I teach people not to reach into baskets, because if you don't see a sharp in there while you're pulling something out, that can be a means of getting stuck. So I grab all my scissors and I organize all my scissors into groups. Okay, so you see I'm still trying to pick out these sharps and smaller items. Okay, just organizing away. Then I grab all my like items. So here I'm grabbing all my needle drivers, and lately in the field, most needle drivers are gold handles. So that's very easy to see in this group, right? So I'll grab all my needle drivers, continue gathering all my scissors. And I prefer doing my trays like this, guys, because one is not only am I touching every single instrument one by one here, it gives me a chance to visually see these instruments in initial time, the first time, right? And if something's wrong with it, I can actually put it off to the side. Two, it kind of gives me a quick recap, or a quick introduction, actually, as to how many of each instrument I have, because I'm not necessarily trying to memorize how many instruments I have here. I'm just counting away and go, okay, there's, 4 of these, 5 of these. I'm pulling these, and then if it's like an odd number, I'll be like, that's not common for this tray, or that's not common for any tray, really, to have an odd number amount of instruments in there. So kind of gives me a little heads up, so that when I am looking at a count sheet, I really know what to look for, and I can go ahead and grab that item. So this is the sorting part of the tray. Some individuals may believe that this part is a waste of time, because, again, I'm 4 to 5 minutes into this video already, and all I've done was assort my instruments. Now, I believe that common practice and best practice, and the best way we serve our OR partners and our clinical partners is to organize the stringer in a manner that not only protects the instruments, but kind of gives an order of usage. To me, and as a past surgical technician, the order of usage that we place our instruments on the backfield is from smallest to largest because that's how we enter the cavities of the body. So smaller instruments will go first, curve before straight, and all curved items facing the same way. Again, in order to protect the tips of the instruments and avoid any kind of commingling or instruments getting caught on each other while I'm removing instruments off the back table. Now, as I'm doing my inspection, you see I'm doing my inspection. I'm inspecting for cleanliness and I'm inspecting for any damage on these instruments. And when I see something that's kind of like out of the ordinary, I will use my light magnification. And I did find one that looked like there was a crack on the box lock. So I removed that instrument and I went and gathered a backup instrument to put onto the stringer. Now, again, I'm not going by the count sheet, so whether this is accurate or not with the amount of instruments I need, I am being aware of how many instruments I'm grabbing, right? And typically you'll see people inspect in groups like this, right? 2 at a time. Kind of give it a quick little look, inspect for that cleanliness, and then, inspect those high soil spots, box locks, the jaws underneath, feeling the instruments as I grab them, to make sure that there's no adhesive or any foreign matter on those instruments. Continuing with building this stringer, and some people like using a towel roll or the stringer blocks. Again, I'm old school. I don't really require them. Now, when you first start out, it's nice to have those accessories and items. They just take up real estate on your table. So if you have an instrument set that's much larger than this, as we typically do have in this field, that's just another item that's going to take up some real estate, some valuable real estate, which is your workspace. So as you can see, I'm not spending a large amount of time inspecting these instruments. If you're like really looking deep into these instruments, about 12 seconds is what all you really need to inspect each instrument and kind of feel away on it. Anything over that is you're really second guessing yourself, or you've come across something that you're not sure what you're looking at. After you see these instruments several times, or you're familiar with the instrument set, you kind of get to know like which instruments get used and what are the high soil spots. That's a good thing. That's when memorization becomes a good thing when assembling and when cleaning trays. It's bad when you're trying to just assemble a tray from memory and not knowing if there was any modifications or something was added, taken away, of course, modification. And or, there's an instrument in there that's probably a different manufacturer than what you're used to. But you kind of get a feel for that as well as you're seeing instruments in the field. Okay. With, again, when you're looking at some needle drivers, especially the gold handles, you want to check out that tungsten carbide insert. Sometimes it can be tricky when you're looking at them with the naked eye. And you can be like, you might miss a crack. So, and that tungsten carbide discolors very easily and wears out pretty easy. If there's texture to it, if there's a grooved tungsten carbide, you want to make sure that those grooves are good. Especially check the tips very well to make sure that there's no cracks, because once that tungsten carbide cracks or is damaged, it is extremely brittle, even though it is a very strong metal. All right, so again, my organization of the stringer is smallest to largest. I try to face my instruments. I do face my instruments all the same direction, smallest to largest. And typically I string from left to right, because that is the way that most stringers you can kind of put in. But this stringer is one of those double uh, opposite side closure stringers. So the way you kind of string this is a little bit different. You usually start with the largest instrument on the left hand side, but I'm stringing it so that it all curves to the right, so that when I flip it, it will be from smallest to largest, left to right, curve before straight. And that would be it. Then if it's typically the same stringer as this set is oriented, it is towel clips followed by needle drivers followed by scissors. So again, all your scissors should be inspected and function tested, right? So orange/red is for scissors that are 4.5 inches or larger, and the yellow tested material is for scissors that are 4.5 inches or smaller. You're only really testing the first third of the scissor, the jaw scissor. So, and the other note that I must say here, and a reminder, is that when you're testing your scissors, that you definitely look out for any testing material that may have adhered to the blade. Just be wary of that, because sometimes we cut into that testing material and a small little piece comes off, and that thing is like static electricity, sticky. It will stick onto the blade. If that was to make its way on the field, it is a warrant for disqualifying that set. So this is the type of stringer that I was talking about. It's like them kind of double-sided there. So I really don't like those stringers, but it's okay. Put that, get it out the way, because look at all this real estate I have. This is like the most beautiful thing when you have an instrument set and you're assembling, is to have that real estate. So now we grab our forceps. And with forceps, you want to make sure that there's no damage to the tips. You can see some of these have gold handles as well. That's again a denotion that there is tungsten carbide insert on the tips or the jaws of those forceps for reinforced grasping and strength. So we're going to go ahead and put our forceps in there, and I'm stealing indicators from my adjacent desk there, so I didn't have any in my desk. So another wasted movement. So we want to eliminate waste. That's one of the things that we want to do when we're assembling and trying to be productive, is eliminate waste. So yes, it's only a couple seconds, but those seconds add up, right? So I should have just got my lazy butt up and got some indicators, but it's okay. This was an on-the-fly video. Inspecting those tips for alignment. The tips should align. For cleanliness, again, I was able to look at this initially when I was sorting. So this is a really quick look with the magnifier, making sure that the jaws align. So here, this was one of those micro tips. So making sure that the jaws align, because it was toothed, that the tooth were there. So you see, I spent a little bit more time inspecting there. Had to look at that really good. Okay, a little bit more time, but again, not overly looking at what's going on there, just making sure that they align, that they're clean, and they're functional. And if they're that gold tip or that gold handle, paying close attention to that tungsten carbide insert. All right, so getting down to the wire here with these instruments. I'm at about 14 minutes into this set. And again, this is the typical assembly of a small set. This has about, I don't know the exact count of instruments, but it's nowhere near 100 instruments. Probably about 86 instruments. Okay, going on to my other little handheld devices here, going on to my sharps. So these are my skin hooks. Okay, my skin hooks go in the bag as well. Okay, my sun retractors, sharp and blunt if I have them. I have Ragnells in there. I have periosteal elevators in this set. The Joseph skin hooks. Okay, and just a general inspection for cleanliness. Looking at those tips for any damages, any cracks or anything like that along the way. Okay, also noticing that they come in pairs. So again, if I see an odd number, I would question that and be like, okay. Except for one. One is an odd number that's okay to have in sets. All right. Got my little skin hooks here. And I think I have some Freeman skin hooks there. There you go. Making sure that the tips aren't bent, that there's no tissue still left on there. And because if there was, guess what? This set goes all the way back to decon. All right, my Wheatlanders, right? So making sure my Wheatlander are, well, it's Wheatlana, not Wheatlander, not a D. There's no D in there, so Wheatlana. Making sure that the springs work on it. Okay. Going on to my Diva retractors, checking out the blades to make sure that there's no sharps around the edges there. Okay, nice and clean. Okay. What's this? My Army Navies. Yeah, my little Army Navies there. Okay, placing them off to the side. Now I'm done with my, you see my little craft style bags there. All right, getting my mastectomy retractors there. Okay, now those have serrated edges there, but again, you don't want to see no sharp edges. You don't want to see no breaks in the welds. Again, you notice these observations and these inspections that are, I'm really focused into what I'm doing. Not being very distracted. Okay, my Bane retractors or my ribbon retractors go into the bag. And then I have two specialized instruments here. So again, some wasted movement here because I didn't have anything set up. Now you see how in the background that case magically appeared because I paused the video for a second to find this. But again, that was wasted movement. That should have been ready. But again, this is if I assumed that I had this. So, and with time, you understand that these are in that set. So you would need this device. And what is this device? This is a insulation tester, okay, by Amy ST79, okay, especially with the 2020 amendments. Insulated instruments must be tested every time after every use. So should be tested. Should. There is no must. There are very few musts in Amy standards. Should be tested after every use. So this is a brush accessory and a gator clamp. You should wear gloves if you're sensitive to the shocks here. I'm oblivious to these shocks. I really have never gotten shocked before. So I don't know what that feels like. Some people get shocked all the time and I don't feel it. So maybe I have tough skin. As you notice, I put this in a separate popcorn bag or a separate craft style bag. With an indicator as well to protect the integrity of that instrument. I'm a firm believer also that these instruments shouldn't even be put in the same tray as all the stainless steels in there, because that's how you encourage or that's how you promote the damage of those instruments. So I have two other instruments that I have to check here, which honestly, I'm going to give everyone a word of advice and a tip. Any set that you have that has suctions, that should be the first piece of instrumentation that you inspect for cleanliness. Because imagine I did all this work and then I go to flush out these suctions and they come out dirty. Okay, now I pour water into the cap because again, I don't want to contaminate a big basin. I just need a small amount of water. I don't need a lot of water. Okay, flush that little bit of water onto a white paper towel or liner to see if anything comes out. Give it a gentle tap. Dispense my water and then use the syringe as an air purge. Okay, I am not a big fan of air at the workstation, although we do have it. I do not utilize it. And this guys is how a basic set is assembled um uh in the majority of facilities that I walk into, guys. All right, guys. See you soon. Peace.